All right, so this is going to be a very informal talk, and so if you have any questions or anything as I'm talking, please don't hesitate to talk to me or ask questions at any point. So I am a bioinformatician. I kind of started out. Actually, I started out as a bench scientist. I worked on the bench. I kind of got pulled into this world as soon as I figured out you didn't have to run about 1,000 PCRs. You could just run one microarray experiment. I thought that was awesome. I really want to get into this. So I kind of got pulled from the bench into data scientist to being a data scientist. I don't really have much math or statistical computer background. Like I said, I just kind of acquired the skills. And basically what I'm going to do today is kind of tell you about my journey into being a bioinformatician and some of the projects that I work on today. So why should you care about bioinformatics? And usually, sometimes I give this to more general groups, but I think you kind of realize why you should care about bioinformatics. If you don't, maybe you should think about another career. But I think this slide really kind of demonstrates why we should all care about bioinformatics. And this is a screenshot of my genome. This is a project from Illumina. This is actually my genome up here. I had my DNA sequenced as part of their research project. Don't ask me how I talked my division head into allowing me to do that. They actually paid for it, which is awesome. I'll tell everybody about my genome. It'd be great. But this is where it's all going, is that everybody in this room at some point in the near future will probably have your DNA sequenced. That the original Human Genome Project, it took 13 years and cost $3 billion to sequence the first human. How much do you think we can do it for now? Any ideas? $1,200? Yeah, that's about right. Usually when I ask high school kids, they're like, $3 million. No, it's not that expensive. Yes, it's getting cheap to actually sequence, and you could probably do it at the core here for about $1,200, whole genome sequencing. The problem is getting getting people to actually analyze it and understand it, and that's kind of what I do. So this is my screen, and basically this is where it's going. It'll give you some medical conditions that you potentially might have in your genome. Also, your responses to, in this case, 16 prescribed medications. And every time you log in, it gives you this thing. It says, based on your DNA, we see you are less likely to have a flush reaction if you drink alcohol. I'm a rugby player. I know that. I know I'm not allergic to alcohol. But this is cool. I mean, this is kind of where we're going. And this is where, it's not only just the genetics itself, but it's also the interpretation of it. Because all of this stuff is probabilities. So it's not only can you sequence somebody, but can you tell them in a reasonable way what potentially medical conditions they might have? And it's going crazy. I mean, you've all heard of 23andMe, right? Everybody's using that now. So you don't even have to sequence the whole genome per se, to get useful information out. We know certain areas that we can sequence, and you can do it much, much cheaper. You also have ancestry DNA. People are very interested in, where they came from. Where are their ancestors from? And then now it's starting to get into really the personalized stuff. So you've got basically these companies that will sequence your DNA and tell you how to live better. And I found this when I was searching for these bioinformatics companies. This is Helix. Are you still struggling to lose weight? The secret's in your DNA. And that's not too far out there, really. We all have mutations. We all have variability in our sequence, which will affect proteins, which might affect enzymes that break down food, right? These people think that they can if they sequence you, they will give you a diet for you to eat that's basically tailored to you. And it gets even weirder after that. And people laugh at me when I say this, but genomics is coming to the dating sites. I guarantee it. Match.com, right? eHarmony, 29 dimensions of compatibility. Imagine 29 million dimensions of compatibility. Eventually, potentially, maybe there's something in our sequence that makes us attracted to each other, to be able to live with somebody for the rest of their life. Who knows? But again, this is kind of where this stuff is going, and people want it, whether we as scientists know what we're doing or not. It's coming. And it's just not genomics, right, or genetics, and that's a really easy one to kind of focus on, but there's lots of ways to use information. I mean, Facebook. If you think Facebook makes its money with advertising, I mean, no, they don't. None of these social websites do. What they're doing is basically collecting your input, seeing what you do, mining what you do online, and characterizing you, kind of like we would with genetics. It's just with clicks. National Security Agency, NSA, Edward Snowden. Governments are using big data information to figure out the population and to basically, potentially poke it and change the future. An example of that, obviously, is the last election in Russia and all the stories that they put out. Anybody hear of Nate Silver? Yay, cool. The longer I give talks, the more people hear about these people, which is good. He has a website, 538. I don't know if you've checked it out, but it's a really data-driven site. But he used data he basically became famous for predicting almost every major election in 2012 in this country. And he didn't take any surveys himself. All he did was take all the information that was out there, find the average of it, and basically get the answer for the election. What I'm going to tell you today, and I'm going to give you an example of a project that I did, I kind of do that with research, that you can take all this research is out there. You can just take all the different research on the same topic, find the middle, and it's better than each one of those individual research studies. And then the stock market, obviously, big data in the stock market. You can use it to analyze stocks. People ask me, why don't you do that, Mike? Why don't you make money doing that? It's well, because it's not, you can model it, but there's still kind of a level of, it's kind of a game system, at least I believe anyway. So, but in farming are using big data quite a bit now. That my uncle is a farmer out in Nebraska, and his setup for his wheat field is much more sophisticated than mine. My setup to analyze genetic DNA. That they're so dialed in these farms now, they have GPS, that they can get off the combines, the tractors will actually plow the field themselves. So basically what I'm doing is kind of giving you some examples of ways we can use information, and that the skills that I learned by analyzing biology, I actually will apply to other things as well. So I not only get scientific requests or clients, but I also get, more just general information mining. Ooh. And as always, I love it when they say, the sexiest job of the 21st century is data analyst. Picture, some guy with unkept hair in the basement, on a computer. That's the sexiest job right there. But I mean, it's true. I mean, that's where all this stuff is going. It's all going big data. That we collect so much information on our computers that it's just silly not to take advantage of that. And that's where a lot of companies are going. So there's a huge demand for data science now. And even in sports. Did anybody watch the last World Series? Yeah? Any Astros fans here? Well, basically what they said was, and this is a picture from Moneyball. I don't have a crush on who's that again? What's his name? Brad Pitt, yeah. By the way, he is no longer sexy in high school. I show that picture to high school kids, and they're just he's old. Yeah, I mean, this last World Series was basically built. Both teams used data analytics to basically come up with their lineups, and it was basically, they said that this one was kind of the first World Series that was just all data analytics driven.